What's up, family, and welcome back for the journey. I'm super excited about today's lesson entitled Don't Abort the Process. This thing blessed me so good, my God. Let's get right into it. The Lord reminded me of this scripture, and it's very familiar. It's found in Romans 8:28, and it declares, "And we know that all things are working together to them who love God and to them who are the called according to his purpose." And it's the enemy's job to wear the saints out because he wants you to abort your purpose. He wants you to abort your assignment. He wants you to abort the dream. But somebody just put at the bottom of the screen, I would not abort this. I would not abort what God puts on the inside of me. I would not abort my destiny. I would not abort the process. And what he does is that he tries to get you to walk in doubt and unbelief because he wants you to go by what you see. But we've got to be a people that walk by faith and not by sight. Don't abort the assignment. Why? Because God says, I'm working it for your good. And where it seems like you've been backed into a corner, it's like, well, you can't catch your breath. It feels like it's better to quit than to keep going. The Father says, don't abort it. He says, because you're right at the brink of breakthrough. And that's where the enemy comes to pull you out of alignment and out of the process, because he understands that on the other side of obedience is a harvest. Don't abort the assignment. Yes, you may have to cry. Yes, you may have to take a small break. Yes, you may either have to get into your prayer closet. But the Father says, whatever you do, don't abort the assignment. Because the first thing he's going to do, he says, I'm going to help you get the victory even in this place. He says, because the last season was difficult. The last season cost you tears. He says, but in this place, I'm going to give you victory if you don't abort the assignment. I'm just hearing this scripture in my spirit. Do not grow weary and well doing, for in due season you shall reap if you faint not. And here is the problem that we've got to learn, that the process is not designed to kill you, but the process is for your making, so you will be able to handle the promise. But the problem is we don't understand that with every promise comes a process. Oh, let me say that again. With every promise comes a process. The promise may be the pound cake, but the process is everything you got to go through to get there. The promise, may be a six-figure job, but you got to go through the interview process. The promise may be, a home, but you got to go to fixing your credit and getting things in order. The promise may be, you becoming whatever God said, but you got to go through. Every promise comes with a process. Let's look at David. David found himself, on the backside of the desert tending sheep. They wasn't even his sheep, but he was tending sheep. Why? Because it was a part of his process. And even though it felt like he'd been left for dead, it felt like, when nobody checking on him, the Father says, I was using this as an opportunity to train you for the kingdom. I was using this as an opportunity to train you for the palace. Your process is your training ground. Don't abort the process just because it don't feel good, just because you can't see your way through. For the Father says, we walking by faith and not by sight. If I called you to it, I'm not going to leave you there to die. Oh, let me say it again. If he called you to it, he's not going to leave you there to die. How do I know that this process is going to get me to promise? It's because in this process, God is allowing this process to pull the layers off of you. Let me say it again. How do I know that this process is going to get me to promise? The Father says, because I'm going to allow this process to pull the layers off of you, that about time you get to promise, you gonna look like what I said. About time you get to promise, there's gonna be such a glory, such a gratefulness on the inside of you, that when you get to promise, you're gonna say, to God be the glory for the things he has done. But the enemy wants you to quit right in the midst of process. But you got to make a decision that there's better after this. You got to make a decision. There's more to it than where I am right now. You got to make a decision. This is not it. I can't stop here. I can't quit. If I quit here, then it's proof I don't believe God. If I quit here, it's proof I don't trust what he said. If I abort what he put on the inside of me, it's truth I don't value that he's not a liar. I don't value the words that he spoke to me. The Father says, don't abort it. Don't abort it. He says, because when I made you a promise, he said, I made it with my name on the line. When I made you a promise, I made it knowing that you was going to have some challenges in the process. But I knew at the end of it, you was going to come out as pure gold. Don't abort the process. He says, because the process is attached to the promise. So today I leave you with this. If you find yourself getting weary, get back into your word. If you find yourself growing weary, increase your prayer life. If you find yourself growing weary, come on, rehearse the promises of God. If you find yourself growing weary in well-doing, the Father says, look unto me, because your weariness is a temporary state, but your promise is eternal. Let me say that again. Your weariness, your tiredness, your frustration, your aggravation, it's a temporary state. He says, but the promise, it's eternal. Hold on to the promise. He says, because it's coming to pass. Don't abort it, because your process is attached to your promise. Have a good one.